panel discussion. We'll just get started. Hi. So the reason why we have this panel is I think any security event would not be complete without the primary employers because they are the ones who are employing the services, and it would be unfair to not have them on the forum. So we wanted to invite them today for this so that we can hear them and have a discussion, candid discussion about what are their challenges and what is that they look for when they hire and when they give a security, when they engage a security services company. So from that perspective, I just I'm moderating this call, this panel, and let me start with allowing them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Jonathan. Introduction.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Yach. I'm the Operations Director for the Virtuous Retail Shopping Portfolio, Pan India.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Captain Lata. I'm Security Manager for Honeywell India. I'm based in Bangalore. However, I support all the businesses of Honeywell in India, and we have presence in almost all major cities in India. Thank you.
Good evening. This is Arjun Sani. Firstly, congratulations, KSA, for the winning the second place on the Republic Day. Excellent. Congratulations to everybody. So I'm from CBRE. I manage the AT&T account for Asia Pacific. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sumit Sharma. I'm a Senior Director with Capgemini India Private Limited. I am responsible and I'm the head for corporate real estate services in India.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nandan Bhatia. I head the Administration, Facilities and Employee Services for Britannia Industries, which is being rated as one of the top company in FMCG. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ashwini Kumar Gupta, heading National Head, DTDC for Administration and Security. So from procurement to streamlining is my baby.
Good evening, audience here. My name is Srinivas. I am from HP Enterprises. I am the Regional Security Manager for South Asia. I'm based out of Bangalore, and I manage the South Asia region. Good evening. Thank you once again.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Preeti Vikram. I'm representing about 550 schools as the Head of Territory for Early Childhood Association.
Good evening, folks. I'm Colonel Darshan Bal, and I'm the Managing Director of Territorial Security Services, India Private Limited.
Good evening, everybody. This is Joseph. I represent G4S and KSSA. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the first question I would have for you is, obviously you are employing a lot of people. We are interested in the blue collar side of things. So blue collar could be your housekeeping, it could be security guards, it could be anything, right? That you employ. But from the audience perspective, we are interested in the security guards. So what is your number one challenge and related to let's say compliance, or you want to look at it from a risk perspective, or so I'm going to divide this into three parts. So the first part I'm going to talk about is compliance. So what is your challenge as from a compliance perspective? Let's start with Jonathan, and then we'll go from there. So John.
I have a funny suspicion there's a conspiracy that you want to start on the far left. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank the KSSA and the Better Place for organizing a function like this. This is the first in my career to be present with such luminaries from the industry, and particularly the chief guest. It's a privilege and a pleasure to meet you, sir. And to you, sir, particularly to thank you most sincerely on behalf of our customers, and I'm sure everybody in the room, for keeping us safe. You know, when you talk about compliance, allow me a second to divert the conversation to our particular industry. It's a little bit different to the industries represented here. We are in retail. We're in shopping centers. Our job is to welcome thousands and thousands of customers into our shopping centers on a daily basis, which respectfully is a little bit different to our colleagues here who are looking after their places of employment and maybe some guests and visitors. And when we look at our shopping centers, we must understand that our world is being disrupted, whether it be through e-commerce, whether it be through different forms of retailing, whether it be mores and different ways that customers relate to shopping centers.
Right.
We must understand that our environment, our retail environment, is changing all of the time. And as a result, we would expect all our service providers, particularly our security service providers, to change and to evolve as time progresses.
Right.
You spoke about compliance. I think that when you set up this panel and you asked us to think through 2 or 3 points, I have 2 bullet points in mind. The first answers your question, and that is, I would like to see that the security personnel from the top all the way through to the bottom are graded. I can no longer continue training my security guards. The fear I have of training security personnel and then watching them leave through natural or forced attrition to go to my competitors or to go to other sites is very worrisome for me. As we are educating and working with some of the top retailers in the country, and as we see our customers evolve to become much more knowledgeable and much more demanding, I would expect that our service providers, particularly our security service providers, understand that they've got to roll with the punches as well, and that they would actually have to train and grade their guards. Come the day that we see in this city and in this country that we as purchasers of this product called security would be able to procure a grade A, a B, a C, a D guard, know what they have to do, and know that we can be assured that they are doing what they are paid to do and what they are expected to do. I think that that is a challenge. It's a challenge from our organization's perspective that we are prepared to work with. I think that from a compliance point of view, we would need to see that the companies that we would employ understand our needs.
Right. Thank you so much. Captain Latha, so you come from a different industry compared to him. It's Honeywell. So what are your challenges or what are your expectations from this audience?
Sure. I think the statement you made that we want the discussion to be focused towards the guarding staff per se. But I like to kind of put a different dimension to the discussion here. When we talk about security as a service, we should be talking as a service. Right. I think that's where I want this industry to go. Okay. When we talk about security, we should say, okay, fine. It's no more a guard, 1, 2, 10, doesn't matter. We need to move to a service where I say, okay, this is the outcome I expect from the agencies to deliver. This outcome could be anything. It can be a very weird outcome saying that I want a 0 asset loss.
Right.
Right? So I'm kind of looking in a way the things the industries is moving. Everyone want to focus on their core. If I talk about Honeywell, Honeywell is outsourcing these services because they want to focus on their core.
Right.
And the security services which we are looking for, saying that, okay, fine, I give this outcome, you deliver on the outcome. Right? Okay. So that is where I think the industry has to mature, and that's where we need to aspire to go. It's very heartening to see, especially when we have a couple of colleagues here from admin and facilities. I've seen this happening and the services evolving in that sector, especially from a facility management perspective.
Right.
But what is little concerning, which I've seen in last decade and so, is that while the FM model are maturing, the security still largely is around manpower.
Okay.
and the contracts and everything is revolving around manpower, and it is not maturing towards these services, which as a primary employer, we will like to see, because the companies want to focus on their core, and that's where they are ready to pay the premium if the services are delivered.
Okay.
So that's a perspective I'd like to put on the table.
Thank you so much. So let me just, before going to Arjun, I think we will come to this side of the table, and we have Colonel Darshan and we have Joseph here who are from the security services side. So let me just take their opinion on the point that you raised with respect to service deliverability and the predictability of things. I think both Jonathan and you are talking about the same things in some form or shape, saying that I want to be able to predict the outcome of things. I want you to provide me a service which I can be assured of.
Captain Lata, I just need to have a clarification. When you say the security services, largely it's what you said, manpower, and it's not evolving to a certain, I don't know. Can you just elaborate on that? What is that you would like to see this manpower going towards?
So when we talk about contract, if I kind of go back to the basics of contract, the way the discussions happen is saying that, okay, fine, they will do the assessment and say, okay, fine, you have so many entries, you have so many transactions to take care, whether it's a material or a people. They will say, fine, we will provide 10 security guards, right? That's where the discussion boils down to. Rather than they saying that, okay, fine, this is the key result area we will like to deliver, you forget about how many manpower we deploy. From a security vendor perspective, they should not say, okay, fine, I'll deploy 10 or 20. Immaterial to me. As a primary employer, if I have to put that across on the table, I'll say, fine, I want 100 guests to be handled, and I want this 100 guests to be handled in a very professional manner. Whether you deploy 10 people or one person, I'll say that I want to be blind to it. There are 100 material transactions which happen in a, say, manufacturing company. I'll ensure that the accuracy of the documentation is maintained. Again, how many people deploy? Whether you automate it, I say, okay, we leave it to you. Provided that confidence comes in, saying that yes, they are capable, they are able to demonstrate that. So that is where I'm saying that it has to be a service-based than a manpower-based.
Does anyone want
service? I think we should add that security for a purpose as well. While manpower, physical manpower is very important to have, in your office or factories or wherever you have residential areas. I think we should try moving towards, like in terms of automation or digitization of security services. In terms of, like Lata mentioned, Captain Lata, in terms of, you've got 100, visitors or material movements, whatever it may be. So in that aspect, in terms of, how can you optimize? And we are not looking at, the purpose is not cutting down manpower, but the purpose is of making it more meaningful, probably digitize security services to a great degree in terms of how you can monitor things and, automate things. That's probably moving to the next level. You have people in, sorry for bringing up this example, but you may have people, in the housekeeping industry or engineering services or transport services. A lot of things have been automated and digitized now in terms of monitoring vehicle movements, everything. So what can we do in terms of security, maybe reception security or wherever it is, transport security. So probably in terms of digitization, automation is probably what I think I'd like to add in here.
Sure. So I think that's an interesting point that you raised about use of technology. I think what you're getting towards is saying that how can we be more, though in facility management there are some changes, security areas which is still lagging behind from a technology perspective. So does anyone want to talk about?
So I think I'll just come back to the topic. We were discussing what is the expectation as a client which we have from the security agencies towards compliance and making sure compliance is of the highest order. So I think first let's go back to understanding where are the likely loopholes in compliance which are supposed to be happening.
Okay.
So compliance of a security agency towards its principle can be put into largely two brackets.
Okay.
One is the compliance towards the law of the land, the liaison with the police services and law and order services, right, which is expected from the security agencies which work for us. I think what we have seen in the previous few years after especially the PSA came into being, the compliance there and the fulfillment of compliance has really gone quite high. Now let's come to the second part of the compliance, which is to do with the internal compliance of the security agencies, which is to do with labor laws, how they are paying their people, are the people well qualified, is there some kind of accreditation happening with them, are their skills being taken up? That's the second part. That's an area where we have realized over a period of time that clients who pay some additional allowances on top of the minimum wages are the ones who are able to draw that compliance very well in all fields, whether it's training, accreditation, labor compliance, so on and so forth. But we have also realized that the moment it is only about minimum wages, that's the time when we expect the security agencies also to look at it from their side and not be only dependent on the client to keep pushing those funds so that compliance in that particular field is in place.
Thank you so much. Does anyone want to put your perspective from a security agency perspective? I mean, either, is there a...
Yeah, 2-3 important points. Firstly, yes, the private security industry is in the right direction, as we see now. But the challenges that the security agencies or the service providers face today are, I've been in this industry for the last 15 years. And when I started my career in the private security industry, the service providers were working at margins of 15 to 18%. See, after all, we are also in the business. And we need to have enough margins to invest on our people, invest on training, on compliances, on their development. But the irony is that today, in most of the corporates, the procurement functions in a very isolated manner. So it's the procurement which decides on who should be their service provider, without having a good background knowledge of how the industry functions. And of course, we have an industry problem where there's cutthroat competition today, people willing to work at 3% or 4%. And with those kind of margins, sustainability is a big issue with us today. And then the other part is about the industry being regulated today. We have a PASARA Act in place, it's been 11 years. The unfortunate part is today for an agency to get a license is a huge problem. It may take anything from 6 months to 2 years to get your license. And you'll also see in various states, agencies are working without a license, without a renewed license, which is not permitted if you read between the lines. If you read the act, it's not permitted. I would like to, we've been victims of this kind of a problem. I would like to be very candid about it. You would all have heard about the incident in Infosys last year. That was in January 2017. Unfortunately, the guard who committed this crime was from my agency. And I had applied for the renewal of license after having worked for 5 years in Maharashtra in the month of October 2016. And this incident takes place on 2019. And as a result, there was a FIR lodged against us saying that how are you operating without a valid license? So that is the catch. And today, if you go to the states, you'll find hundreds of agencies whose applications are pending for renewal or for issue of an initial license. So what has happened is, at one point of time, I would say 15 to 20 years back, there were very few players. Today the players are a large number, the competition is stiff, the margins are low, expectations of the client systems are very high. These are some of the challenges as far as the service provider's perspective is concerned. And as you see now, I would say in the next 10 years, you would have read various reports by KPMG and Thornton and things like that. 65% of the private security industry lies in the unorganized sector today. There's just about 35% which is in the organized sector. Though there is a improvement as we go along, but definitely, Jonathan talked about digitization or technology. The race are not very far. I can really tell you in the next 10 years, you will have more dependence on technology and less on manpower. And I think that would be an ideal situation. And the larger players today are moving in that direction, where they're talking of offering services by, talking about hybrid models, which is a mix of manpower, I would say manpower, the private security guards, and technology. So this is my perspective as a service provider, and the challenges on both sides are almost the same.
Thank you, sir. I think this is a good question for our IG sir from a licensing process perspective and stuff. It's an interesting question that sir has brought up. Sir, what are your views on? I'll cover that. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Jonathan.
I'd like to reply to the gentleman.
Okay.
I'm not sure, sir. I agree with you. I have a big, loud voice. I have that advantage. Thank you. All right, I'll use technology. I don't think I agree with you. Were I to agree with you, then all my expectations in respect to how security companies work in our shopping centers would be perfect. But that's hardly the case, because only one of the 4 agencies, we have 4 shopping centers pan-India, and only one of those agencies has actually bothered and taken the trouble to come and see us and ask and inquire what are our expectations. Our expectations are disruptive, because our customers expect us to respect and respond in a very disruptive fashion. And that is, we have to introduce a hospitality grade of security and housekeeping and parking through our entire system. And only one of our 4 agencies has ever bothered to come and speak to us about hospitality grade security. It's all good and well to talk about technology. I'm in the business of satisfying people. I love people. It's like I love sitting on this panel, I love sitting in a coffee shop, and I know you do as well. But there's a very different way of managing the security in a shopping center when you look at it from a technology point of view and when you manage it on the ground with women and gentlemen security guards. And I'd like to leave a challenge to my colleagues in the security businesses, that you up the ante in your own businesses and understand my business. I am very unhappy that I am constantly training my security agency people, and they only stay in my employ because of our training. How's that for a challenge? What does that say about the KSSA's security training and all of those mentorship and all those kind and nice words that you've made? I think that there's a great deal of work that your businesses have to apply themselves to do in order to come up to grade. Because what worries me the most is that my customers, hundreds of thousands of customers on a monthly basis, are expecting us to secure them. And the problem is that we are dependent on our agencies. And if we are constantly educating and training our agency staff, we might as well not employ security guards from your companies. There's the challenge.
Yeah, I accept this challenge, and I would ask you 2 questions. While hiring an agency, do you look at it as an investment on security, or do you look at the cost?
I look at it as from an
schooling background, and so I just want to hear her perspectives about the challenges that she's facing. But once I do that, I want to also get into the training discussion. I think more of this is getting more into the training and that part of things, and I want to hear other gentlemen as well. But before that, to Preeti.
So I'm really happy that you brought up hospitality as one of the core functions of a security as well, because coming from the industry of a school, they are the first point of contact for a parent when they enter into the school, and we are heavily dependent on giving the best customer experience, right? As a school, we require that person at the gate to welcome the people with a smile, and it's twofold here. It's exceptionally difficult because not only do they have to deal with the adults, they have to deal with the children as well. So they have to be trained in a completely different manner on how to handle a young child. So they obviously cannot hold a child and pull them in. So there is a lot of specific training that goes into training these people who are going to be the first phase of the organization. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is that we would require a lot more women. In fact, we all want to hire women as security guards in schools. And if you look around in this room, I think there are about 3 of us. So, you know, that talks a lot about the industry. We need a lot more women because they will be sensitive to the needs of the children as well as the parents who are coming in. So 2 things, training in hospitality, apart from the core training that they require, and more women in this industry.
Okay, thank you so much. To Nandan Bhatia, do you want to talk about...
So you would like to say something? I'll talk after.
Mr. Jonathan, do I understand that you are not happy with the training part of the security guards?
Arjun.
Okay.
Not all the time, some of the time. Specifically in respect to preemption of our requirements and the understanding of our requirements.
Could you, for example, I mean, if you can sensitize me to the way your business runs and the type of work you expect from the security guards.
It would be a pleasure, sir. I think that when you look at security within a shopping center or with security within a hospitality environment, a hotel or a hospital or a school, there has to be a component of the ability for the guard, the security person, to touch you as a customer. There has to be an interpersonal relationship. It's a guardianship relationship. And in many respects, it's completely contrary, sir, to what you expect from a security guard. On the one hand, security is black and white. It's either safe or unsafe, right? But in respect to the hospitality environment, it's an engagement where, as God gave us 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, we use it in that proportion. How can I help you, sir? You're looking a bit lost. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, back to Nandan. So what is the kind of training? And so I think we covered the compliance part to some extent, though it's not completely done. But I think there's a lot of things about training that has come up. So what is your perspective about training? And how, I mean, given that it's a blue collar segment, there are challenges with vernacular languages. A lot of them are migratory workforce. They're not local. Training them is an issue both the security agencies are facing and the primary employers are facing. So what are your thoughts, or what are your...
Sure. So thank you, Anupam. So I'll just not only talk about the training, but I'll talk about the holistic approach of creating the business excellence. And I will add with Jonathan what he just said about the hospitality. So today, as our colonel just said, that 35 to 40% security agencies, private security agencies are only organized. 60% is only non-organized. Now, if you see the figure says, the report says by 2020, it will be 50-50%. But I think we need to ensure that how do we enhance the deliverables which is being committed to the client while the contract has been signed. Now, there are 3 important aspects when you're talking about the business excellence. One is we cannot focus only on the training, but entire dynamics of the people, process, and technology. So again, you know, when we integrate this, the deliverables with respect to the quality comes in terms of efficiency of services. You can optimize a cost also in that manner, and the speed of the deliverables will increase. So I think training is again a part of the people where you define the roles and responsibilities, you deliver the services through KPIs, you have the KRAs for the service provider, and you constantly review that. Now, if you see the PASARA Act says that 100 man-hours training is mandate, right, when the blue collar joins. So 100 man-hours classroom training, and approximately 60 hours is mandate for the OJT, which is on the side when you deploy the blue collar. So I'm asking you, is it really happening? I think we need to further enhance our ownership and accountability towards the deliverables for the client, and I'm sure we will be able to make the difference. Because today, from the corporate services perspective, if you ask me from Britannia, we have around 90 co-manufacturing units and around 20 manufacturing units which are owned, and we have huge manpower. Now, how do we deliver the services? How do we do our business? And believe me, today, if we are, as a facility management folk, if we are able to sleep properly at our home, because of you. And I'm sure, I would like to, in this gathering, I would like to thank Mr. Katti, who is here, where we had so many challenges in our manufacturing unit in Biddi, in corporate office in Prestige Shantiniketan, where we have got the 100% support from them. I think we need to understand what is the deliverable, define the SOPs, SLAs, the guidelines has been set by the clients. Only thing is we need to adhere this. So let's grow towards the business excellence for both the partners. I think that is more important. And if you will not take care of your people, believe me, the business cannot be taken care. So you take care of your people, the business would automatically will be taken care. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Over to Ashwini. You come from a totally different industry, DTDC with logistics. So what are your thoughts?
Anupam, first of all, I'd like to thank for organizing and giving a platform where we can tell and we can interact with our partners. We consider them as partner. So compliance is not a problem, because as a principal employer, as a company, we take care of compliance and we check everything before paying out. But my main concern is skill development. I need a vertically skilled, like Preeti as Preeti mentioned, they need a different set of guarding services. We need a different set of guarding services where as we handle consignments of our customers, which doesn't belongs to us. So we want a different set of guarding services where we want frisking to happen, where we want accountability to happen. So all these things, it's a hostile environment in a courier service or in a 3PL environment or in a warehousing where guard is to be protected, like he should wear industrial shoes, or when a vehicle is reversing, like he has to take care, or in a warehouse setup, he is receiving many vehicles, maybe from Uttar Pradesh, maybe from Rajasthan. So he should be acquainted with the cultural change. Right. So compliance is not a challenge for us. Our challenge is vertically skilled guarding.
Okay.
Why? Because frisking. If a guard is, let's say a small example of frisking, if a guard is not trained in frisking, if without gloves or without a metal detector, if he is touching someone while frisking, it's a challenge. Okay. Because many a time we have many visitors in our warehouses.
Okay. Sure.
So it's a challenge. So and I can support my partners, but I cannot put my resources to train the guards.
Okay.
So that is a challenge for me. Otherwise.
Okay. Thank you so much. Over to Mr. Srinivas.
Good evening, sir. I'm Srinivas representing HP. So I have a little different perspective. Now I call all of you, our outsourced security partners, as enablers of productivity. And I say this because in the past few years, you've seen there's a hyper growth phase of IT sector in Bangalore. There's so many companies that have established themselves here. And the productivity of the employees is measured in terms of the safety and security that you provide to our companies. You know, we've got great talent, we've got engineers and R&D folks who develop great products in HP and all that. But all that credit of the development of the product also goes to that officer, that supervisor who's guarding the facility, who's making them feel safe. And, the company is a second home to all the employees who come. So they are at home, but at the office they're about 8 to 9 hours there, and they're working and making sure that Bangalore is shown on the world map of the IT sector. And so that is why I call you the enablers of productivity. Now let's see the demand. In the next about 5 to 10 years, the population of Bangalore maybe another 20-30%. There's going to be energy demand. There's going to be an economic growth of at least about 140%. And along with that, we're going to see a boom in IT sector. And if we have to attract all the companies in US and other places to do business in Bangalore, you all have to give assurance to them that, hey, you can come and do business here. We'll keep you safe. We will keep you safe. And that's the thing which I am seeing that it's happening. So that's why companies are coming. At least from an HP perspective, we feel safe because of all of you. So you lead the way and we'll follow you. So that's from the IT sector as such. However, you know, as outsourced security service partners, you want companies like HP and maybe Intel or a Cisco on your company profile. We also want to have great partners like you to be associated with us. So my ask from all of you would be to focus on brand building. It may be a small company, it may be a big company, but focus on building a brand which will include compliance, it will include anything, training, compliance, hospitality, all that. Build a great brand for yourself, focus on that. You build a great brand for yourself, companies will know, you know, they'll come here, they'll invest in Bangalore city, and probably that helps to, helps the city to grow well from an economic perspective. And then we've got 16,000 employees here. This is the biggest setup out of US for HP. And that's the confidence that they have in your teams supporting us. So I thank all of you for that. However, you know, minor things like, thank you, minor things like compliance and all are okay to deal with. As long as it's not a legal or a financial risk to us or to you, I think it can be managed. So thank you for that. Do focus on brand building and improving your footprint across and embracing technology in whichever way it comes. So lead the way and we'll follow you. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas.
In my view, if you as a partner align your commitment to the goal of the company or the vision of the company, then the problem is solved. Because vision for Preeti is something different. For Nandan, it is different. For me, it is different. If you align with the vision, problem is solved.
Sure. Thank you. In fact, I have a slightly different thought around this because in India, the business has really taken off in the last 10 years. And we are able to sit here and discuss and give our opinion just because we have matured in the last 10 years. My belief is the rate at which we are growing, we don't have any models probably in China, but I'm sure we are not following the Chinese model. But the whole relationship between in an outsourced model is a shake hand between two partners where there's a pull and push which happens among them. This pull and push is a very important factor. Sometimes it's this partner which is the principal who's stronger, has very strong processes, has very strong management and thought process. So it becomes a pull from this side. And sometimes it is the service provider, quite less often, let me put it like this. It is the service provider who has that. But you know, this very positive tension is very important in this whole relationship for this relationship to really grow very well. I wanted to also add another perspective. Somewhere in our greed to really evolve and have the complete pie of business to make sure we beat our margins, of late we are seeing a trend world over, not only in India, where security agencies want to do everything. They want to be housekeepers, they want to be courier boys, they want to be parking boys. I mean, we need to understand, if you want expectations to be set, you need to set your scope so that people understand based on the threat levels which have been jointly done between the client and you, you are giving guarding services to meet those basic requirements, and on top of that, you are providing extra services. Like for example, we face this very big issue of the behavior of guards and education level and communication skills, which ultimately came into hospitality issues with security guards in the IT industry for a very long time. But we reached a point of conclusion where we said that it is the facility manager who's the hospitality manager and not the security guard, because security guard has a mandated work which has to finish at one point, and thereafter the hospitality guy has to take over. So I think what is very important is to set the rules of the game and engagement of the contract with your client very, very clearly and very, very openly in a transparent manner whenever you build your contracts. After that, sometimes you will find us not so organized. So at that time, you organize yourself and come back and say, hey, I want to do say a quarterly business review with you, a half-yearly business review with you, and a yearly business review with you. Can you give me time? Then Jonathan will have no complaints. In a similar manner, if we are not organized, if you guys are not organized, probably I need to push for it. Okay, monthly management review with you guys, I want to do. I want your MD to come down. It will start flowing and the expectations will go. And the last point which I want to make is, security is an industry which is a threat analysis based industry. Let us not lose that part, because the moment we diversify too much to provide each and every part of the service, it becomes very, very difficult for us to concentrate on what we do well. So if we want to build a hospital, say a housekeeping part of our say security agency, then make it a separate company by itself. So the expectations are totally different and a total different management. Don't mix it up, because the moment you mix it up, everybody gets confused and the expectations are never met and it becomes a dispute. So I think this is something which we have learned as we evolve, and this is something which we should revisit now that we have reached a point where we're going to evolve further and grow in the coming few days.
Thank you so much. I want to come to Joseph, but before I come there, I just want to take Arjun's one point, because he is kind of sandwiched, being CBRE. He has a client on one end, he has vendors on another end. It's kind of a very interesting role between the devil and the deep sea. So what is your, as a service provider, consultant, what are your things that is different from the rest of the guys?
Thank you. I think you just sandwiched me again currently. So no, I think it's a very good point that you brought up. I mean, I've been listening to everybody. I mean, while our clients have expectations in terms of, what they expect from CBRE as a service provider towards our deliverables, our SLAs, our KPIs, and then what is our expectations from, a security agency, our partner, security service partner, in terms of what is it that we need them to deliver. I think what is very important in terms of, it's very important that we communicate very openly. We have to, balance it between the client and our partner, the security service companies. There are many a times, Sumi just mentioned the point in terms of, we expect the security service company to come forward to us and say, what can, or we should. I think it's very important to communicate and have that open communication between, the service provider, us, and the client as well. And it's not always, that the client is right. No, that's not correct, and I don't believe that. Because, while market is still maturing, there are many a times the clients can have very high expectations which are not reasonable or which are not achievable. So it is our responsibility to go back to the client and tell them, look, this is what we can do, this is what we can achieve. And then accordingly tell the security services company as well that this is what the client expects, but we understand you can't give this. But what is it that you can provide to us? So it's very important, there's one thing that I follow at least, whatever SLAs and KPIs, whatever we have with our clients, to a certain degree we trickle that down to the partners, to security service companies. So, they align and they understand what our expectations are, and then in terms of what the client's expectations are. So it has to be a win-win situation, it's a 360-degree turnaround, that it has to be what it is that, the client expects, what is it that we expect, what is it that the security service company can deliver.
Sure.
And I think in many a times, we get sucked in and we get, pulled into, in terms of my client said this, my client wants that. But I see very few people pushing back to the client saying, we can't do this, we can't give you that. So it's very important to have an open dialogue with the client. I mean, the client will come and tell you, hey, Arjun, I saw this guard sleeping. I'm giving you an example. The guard will sleep. He's human. If you're not going to pay him, if you want him to do double duty and you're going to pay peanuts, you're going to get. I mean, people they'll work somewhere else for double duty and they're tired, they're human. You need to understand and pass that expectation on to the client. We have to be thankful for the services they do. Somebody mentioned here that we sleep at night peacefully because of the kind of services they provide. So it's important to have an open dialogue with the clients. But at the same time, there are many times that, and I really want to pass this message on to all, my colleagues, my friends over here from the security company. We have many times I've seen, my colleagues in the team, and I've seen, say, a field officer come over to meet for a meeting or something like that. And they put forward the expectations, and the poor field officer or the supervisor or whoever says, yes sir, we'll do that sir, okay sir. I think it's very important that they need to be geared up to say, sir, we can't do this or we can do this. It's very important that expectations are set right. So I think it has to be an open dialogue and an open discussion that we all have. But to end it, I mean, really thank you for all the support you all give us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Just like to share a comment which I heard just yesterday. In Honeywell, we had this counter-terror drill which was done by the Garuda Force, and we had the director of Brigadier Mukesh Rastogi who was there. And the comment he made was very heartening, and that's a compliment to the partners, security vendors who are sitting here. He said that if you look at the history of terror attacks in, say, Bangalore, if example I take, he said the private security companies have never been targeted. And he said that's largely because of the setup they have. And that's where the kudos go to the complete service provider, the partners who are here, who have made that happen. And let me tell you, that is being noticed. And if the director of counterterrorism can make this comment, I really felt proud to be part of this industry and be working with you all.
Thank you so much. So let me, to Joseph, I think over to you. What do you?
Yeah, good evening, sir. I think firstly I should appreciate KSSA for organizing such event where we hear the voice of the customer and we understand from what level to what level we need to move. If you see, the security has changed over the years from gates, guards and gun. Now we are trying to get a better level of security in terms of training. In the last 10 years, you will have seen over there has been an improvement in terms of the training force, training the security people over there, the number of hours that has been put in. And that is why you will find the loss prevention percentage has improved comparing about 10 years back. Because earlier, 10 years back, if you see, the concept was Chowkidar. Just put a guard over there and ask him to salute and control. But today, I think the level of security requirement from the client has risen, as well as we from the private security force has to also catch up with the client. And that's what somebody said here, where the QBR and the KPI is very important. So we hear you, and we will take a leap forward from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So last but not the least, go to Q&A. If the audience has any questions for the panel. Anything that you want to share? Yeah.
Good evening. Three points I would like to address to the panel here. It's not a defend or I'm from the service side or from the user side. When you said, some of the gentlemen said that it's a partner. When you partner, are you really partnering with the services, the service providers? That's a core point. And the psychology is that when you see a blue collar services, it's a least point.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah. Yep. So it's a least point taken. For example, I just say the ground level when security guard stops you, he says, who are you to stop me? Though the SLAs are being placed. Here I would request, or maybe in the future going on, when you keep an SLAs, the SLAs should be slightly flexible. It should not be rigid on the penalties. The more of penalties, fear the service providers to do all the background, which is not correct. So I don't say that you not put penalties. You should be putting penalties, but there should be some kind of flexible in the SLAs to see that the real, what is the real background is happening. And the skills, yes. Skill sets, which has been, as of now, if you see from back 10 years now, the security industry is been far, far better equipped to handle all the industry. You can name it, it is retail or a manufacturing or anything as such. It's been improving a lot from the technology aspect also. Only one of the point is where I would request the the users also to see that when you're saying that to the service provider, we want to have a vision sharing with you. How many of you have been really sitting with the service provider to share your vision? And share your, SLAs to see that to growth. I'll come back to you, Mr. Jonathan. Jonathan said that nobody's coming and meeting me. There may be people with me not meeting, but I'm saying in general, nobody is there to come and meet. When we say that we want to have a feedback from you, give me a feedback form. Nobody is sitting and giving us a feedback. There are certain cases I'm saying that 10% or 20% companies, like I said, Jonathan would give me a feedback. But more of cases in the service industry of security, especially security and housekeeping, it's a blue-collar job where people will say, it's not important to me as of now. But on the other side also, I said I'm not defending that there are people who don't come as bold enough to come and ask you. Because most of the top management, people who are in the top management, busy with their business doing implement. That's where they have outsourced these things. That's not my headache. But still, there are certain points where we as a service provider want to scale up ourselves to come and meet you to give the feedback and understand the process and develop. That's where from our KSSA organization, we have been doing a lot. Yeah.
I thought that you had 3 questions, but I could only follow the first one, and it's still stuck, so I'm answering the first one. Sorry, I didn't get your name. Suresh. Yeah, Suresh. So I think the first question which came up, and it was like, it was an expectation from the client end to have flexibility in SLA. I mean, maybe I may not be the popular guy here, but I want to still put this point through. We are sitting here, all of us who are sitting in this room, are sitting here to evolve this industry and take it to the next level. The moment we decide that we want to be flexible on our SLAs, we have doomed our industry. In fact, we should be taking up the challenge to say, give me the toughest SLA, I will take it. Now, this being said, this may sound slightly provocative to some of you. There's another way of dealing with it. When you sit with your client, and we in India are quite used to writing big contracts and big books. We want our number of SLAs to be 200 when we know we can only manage 10, right? Be very clear in your commercial discussions. These can be guidelines on which there will be no penalty, or the penalty percentage will be only this much. These are 10 SLAs where there will be no compromise on penalty, and we are ready to pay you penalty because we as an industry feel that we don't want to compromise these things. So I think we should take the discussion to this rather than a blanket, oh, let's make it flexible. Because the moment you bring that much of flexibility, what happens? We don't evolve. And we are all here to evolve and go to the next level so that today you are doing your job and business in Karnataka. The rules may change. You may want to go and provide your services in Singapore. What will you do there if you are not used to stringent SLAs here? So I think this was only for the SLA part. If anybody wants to take the second and the third part.
So, just to add, I think what is more critical is to not to give the overcommitment. What can be delivered should be committed when the discussion is happening with respect to the agreement sign-off. And today, if you see, the industry is really evolving by approximately 20%. We are talking about 80 lakh blue-collar people by 2020. We are talking about the currently in the year 2015 it was only 70 lakh crore was the revenue, but today we are talking about it by 2020 again another 50 lakh crore. So that kind of growth is happening. So I think there is an opportunity to deliver, but what can be really delivered should be the focused area in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I love a challenge, Mr. Suresh. Thank you very, very much. And I'd like you to know that on this august panel, he and I are friends. I stand with him. God forbid the service level agreement standards are dropped, sir. And perish the thought your wish comes true. Your industry will go for a toss, and I will insource, and I will not outsource, because I don't have your commitment. Mr. Suresh, change your mind immediately, instantaneously, within the last nanosecond. Please. Service level agreements are here for a very particular reason. It's to make sure that both parties understand what the outcomes are. And I speak on behalf of my hundreds of thousands of customers coming into our shopping centers. They're not interested in service level agreements. They're interested if their little child is lost. Does anybody know how to find my child? There's a standard operating procedure for that. I'm actually more interested in standard operating procedures, making sure that things happen. God forbid there's an earthquake in Punjab. Do the guys know how to evacuate the shopping center within 10 minutes? Yes, they do. And do they know how to evacuate the shopping center within 10 minutes in any of our shopping centers in the event of a fire? Again, God forbid. Yes, they do. Service level agreements are there like any agreement, like a marriage contract. You put in the drawer after it's signed and you only refer to it, God forbid, if there's a disaster. Do not think ever about dropping the standard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One last question. There. Can someone pass the mic there? Oh, sir wants. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I think I am the one who has been on both sides of the coin. I have worked for 40 years in corporate houses, and my last job was as senior vice president, looking after HR, PR, and admin. Having been on both sides of the coin, and having heard today the panel, as well as all from the audience, I have only one request to make. I am now a service provider. I work as a director with SIS India Limited. Having been on both sides, my only request to all of you in the panel is that treat us as a partner. Once you treat us as a partner, I am sure you can expect much more than what you are doing today, and I am sure our boys will meet what your needs are. I tried this recently in one of the very large organizations where I had requested the managing director to kindly come up on the dais and award our boys who have worked with you for 5 years and more. Just come and give a presentation to one of them. Just give an award to one of them. The managing director said, why one? He came on the dais and he said, why one? I would like to meet all of them. He spent half a day with the boys, and the great change it brought in the service. The same boys, the same service provider, the same customer. After a year, he rings me up and he says, there's a great change. Now what made the change? It's the men. You treat the men equal to you, because his view was that, look, it's only difference between you and me is that I am in a different uniform of my organization and you are in a different uniform. Otherwise, you're part of us. We are grateful to you that you are looking after our security and safety. And anything you need anytime, you are most welcome to walk into my office. You know what a difference it made in 1 year. So kindly treat us as part of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
One more question. Good evening, my name is Katti. I think out of 8 of you, 4 have been my customers or still serving also. Thank you, Mr. Nandan. First and foremost, we are talking about SLAs or KPIs. I'm fully in agreement with you people, because as a service provider, I need to adhere to certain minimum expectations of the customer. Now, at the same time, one of the best MNCs where I was negotiating, The KPIs were somewhere around 52 line items, which I said I'll take it head on. I'm willing to take this, but let's have a percentage. They said, Mr. Katti, you need to be 96%. Well done. I'll agree to 96%. If you don't achieve 96%, Mr. Katti, these are the penalties. You lose 2% of your service charges. They're not talking about my other ingredient. They're only talking about my service charge. I said, what happens if I'm more than 96%? It's only less than 96, you're asking me to give away my 2%. If I achieve 96 or 97, the client immediately said, Mr. Katti, you gain 2%. The message here is, guys, you're keeping your back safe and I'm keeping my back safe. And I'm driven to achieve that KPI, and it keeps your books very, very clean. I do agree with Arjun because I know Arjun for the last 30, 35 years. Guy, you have been the other side, you have been this side. The best thing I have learned is saying no if I can't do it. I think we all need to understand this. And I do also, I think, mention about Colonel Darshanbal, who was my colleague from the industry. My only request, please, my request to all the users here, when you call us for discussions or negotiations, it's a procurement guy who takes a call in the beginning. Okay? I'm sure, okay? You have done your homework of shortlisting the best vendor who will suit your requirement. But at the same time, I want the head of security or the end user, Mr. Jonathan, I really understand your genuine concerns here. But my request is, let these security guys who are going to use the services be part of procurement. This is what I wanted to tell. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
There were 2 points. I just want to take 2 of them with examples so that, you know, it's not a hypothetical discussion anymore. At Capgemini, last year, we are in 10 cities in the country, and we have around 1 lakh employees all across the country with 35,000 in Bangalore. We started a program in 2017 where 10,000 rupees could be awarded to any security guard who is continuing his education, or to a girl child within his family in case she wants to continue her education post 10th class. Now, we launched this program within the company only for security services, and in 2017, 543 security guards benefited out of it for their families or for their... In 2018, when we relaunched the program, we have this year got close to around 2,000 entries. So now we are looking at how to increase the budget for this. So this was primarily to let you guys know, partnership is there, but what is more important is to get that partnership from the equal footing, so that, you know, it becomes an equal partnership. Coming to the second part, I think there's a huge evolution which has already happened in the outsourcing industry from a SLA and penalty mechanisms. Gain share is the game which is already there. A lot of companies are doing it. I can tell you at Capgemini we are doing it. As you just now said, what if I exceed your SLAs? Gain share is there, right? But what is happening slowly and slowly is clients and principals are moving ahead and are saying that gain share is only for things where you will transform the way you are doing your business and not on the basic run part. The expectation is, on the run I want a gain share. So clients are going back and saying, no, not on the run. Go for a transformation. If you are transforming the industry and making me the best and, you know, probably the most digitally savvy security service provided at a client site, then definitely I'll do a gain share. But otherwise, on the run part, I think the gain share is going away from the industry. This is something which I wanted to convey.
Thank you so much. With this, we end the session. Thanks for all the panelists. Very, very nice discussion, and I'm sure the audience appreciated it as well. Thank you so much. Now,